sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Kicking It Back with Mac on the Bleacher Brothers Network. Apologize for all the technical difficulties last week. Had to bring John back. John, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Hopefully, we'll make it through this one.
Yeah, I think we're going to be good. I think we figured them out. Got a lot to talk about. We got Champions League Matchday 2. We got the San Siro. We got gaffers on the hot seat. Summer signings not doing too good. But where do we always start? The home team. Liverpool lost in consecutive games now. One in the Prem, one in the Champions. What's going on, buddy?
I think we're starting to see a little bit of what happens when you replace 40% of your team in one transfer window. I think also Slot has been experimenting with some formations. And credit to them, they did get out to that 5-point lead after 5 games. They had a little flexibility. I think we mentioned it a couple weeks back when we did our preview. Crystal Palace is a team that people shouldn't sleep on. They just recorded their club record, like 17th unbeaten game in a row. That defense is for real.
Undefeated in the Prem, the only team.
So I think when we come back and look at the Crystal Palace loss later in the season, it's not going to look as rough as it does right now. That said, it's only the second time Slot's lost back-to-back games, so he doesn't make a habit of this. I would like to see him revert to a little more tried and true. I think when we brought Frimpong in, we knew he was more than just a right back. He's a right-sided player. Right back, right mid, right wing back, even up there in Salah's position, he can do all of it. The problem is when you drop Szoboszlai back into that right back position, you take his industry out of the midfield. And I think that's where we got overran, especially midweek in the Champions League. Crystal Palace, I think, again, just a really solid defense with individual talent up front that can hurt you. Similar to what Liverpool's kind of made their name on the last handful of years. We got Virgil van Dijk, the stalwart in the back. Konate has definitely been off it this season. I want to get your opinions on that, actually.
Yeah, he's got one foot out the door.
Well, apparently not. ESPN just came out and said that he's looking to turn down Real Madrid for a new contract at Liverpool, but I think that might also be a tactic to get more in his weekly paycheck.
Yeah, but what I've read, rumor mill or not, he's turned down 4 offers.
Because I think he's looking for a magic number. I think he believes his own hype. There's people out there saying, he is the best defender in the world. Certainly hasn't shown it the first handful of weeks this year.
But can you even make an argument that he is the best? Because I can't.
I can make an argument that when he's playing in his pomp, he's a top 5.
Yeah, but not the best.
Yeah. He's playing next to the best defender in the world.
Right.
Still Virgil. There's a couple cases to be made around the other leagues, but the best defender in the world in my mind is Virgil. I think William Saliba at Arsenal is probably in that top 2-3 conversation. There's competition there, but to say you're the best and demand that type of money, I get he's young, he's about to enter the prime, he wants that big contract, but I'm hoping this is more agent noise and he's kind of keeping his nose out of it.
But he hasn't looked through
It doesn't
through 7
doesn't
8
look
games.
good
He
on
hasn't
the.
looked the part. He's looked sloppy.
Well, and that's the problem. We've kind of I think his head definitely was turned. I think the chop and change around him has definitely impacted him because Frimpong is very different than Trent, is very different than Bradley. So I think having that inconsistency, and even Zobozai has played, we've seen 2, 3 games where he's at least had minutes at that right back spot. Um, I think that's been hurting him because it's a little bit of unfamiliar territory where with Trent, he knew Trent would go forward and look to play the passes. He knew he had to shift out wide. Whereas now he almost stays a little more narrow and it appears to hurt him. Um, but then his passing just hasn't looked good. He's given up some silly fouls. Um, but of all the Liverpool players, he's not the one who concerns me the most. Florian Wirtz.
Who does?
Florian Wirtz, man, that was a lot of money, and I think it shook his confidence a little bit. Now, the plus side is I did see he has created the most chances in the Premier League, but you got no goals and no assists on those chances. So I question the quality of those chances. And at what point does Slot have to say, hey, I need to drop you just for a little bit, get McAllister back out there, get Jones in there? Um, Even if just to give him a little break, get his name out of the limelight for a week or two, get a 30, 40 minute substitution appearance, get that goal, get that assist, build your confidence back because I think the price tag really did shake him.
Hey, so I have a huge concern with the defense. Our buddy Henry keeps telling me it's really because of the midfield. But we got all these new shiny toys up front, and we're not banging goals. Like, on Tuesday, we got shut out. Nothing from Isak, nothing from Ikitike, nothing
Tuesday
from
was rough.
Wirtz, nothing from Salah. And, like, everybody can tell me, like, you're going to Turkey, you're playing in one of the most hostile environments. I don't care. When we're rolling out these Rolls Royces, right, of attacking players, put the ball in the net. So that's a big concern for me to begin with, that we're not firing. Like, the worst thing is, to your point, I said Saturday at MJ's, the only change I would have made at halftime was taking him out, giving the second half to somebody else, and he didn't. And if you noticed, he put him out on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And where did you find him 90% of the time? He was over on the right, occupying Mo's spot. So
Which is another thing. If you look at passing combinations throughout the Premier League, the first time Mo shows up as a top passing combination with anyone on the Liverpool team, it's the 30th pairing. They're not getting the ball to Mo like we used to. I think a lot of that has to do with the switch at the fullback positions. Kirk is not the guy who's going to play that 60, 70-yard cross-field ball like Robbo would to Mo. You don't have Trent spinning a ball down the sideline for him into the channel. So I think we are going to see a little bit of a shift away from Mo this year. Now, with that said, he's still getting his numbers. He's got a handful of goals. He's got a handful of assists, but you can tell he's not as involved as he used to be. I do think with Isak and Ekitike looking the part, the goals will come and relieve a little bit of pressure. But I wonder if we're finding a style shift that we thought we were going to see more of last year and is actually coming in place this year with the new signings. And that's why we're seeing a little bit of the boat rocking these last 2 games. Because the warning signs have been there. I mean, you can't keep getting away with 80-plus minute goals to win your games. So the warning signs were definitely there, especially with the number of 2-0 leads that we've lost. But I think there is a bit of a learning curve. I think they did carve out a little bit of space for themselves, so they do have the ability to, miss some points here and there. But as we've seen in past years, 2, 3, 4, 5 points could make the difference at the end of the season. So you don't want to get comfortable thinking, oh, we have 5 points to spare. Well, now it's only 3 points. It's chopping, or it's less than that now because I
It's
think we
two.
have,
It's two.
and isn't it like Crystal Palace is right behind us now?
That man, no
Um,
Arsenal.
yeah. So, and Arsenal, I know I got to eat some crow here, and own up to some things I said earlier in the season. Their signings have looked phenomenal. I questioned all of them. I did not think Gyökeres was going to hit the ground running the way he did. Um, but I think if they can get through some of their injuries, if Eze can really find his feet in that squad, who is it? Zubamendi, I saw with that passing stat I was talking to. After the center backs at Arsenal, he is the next three passing combinations to other players on the field.
Yeah,
Everything goes through him.
yeah,
What a signing.
he looks phenomenal. I love that signing for them. But like, and I don't want to like lull on the fact with Liverpool and not scoring goals because we have a lot of opportunities. We're not just putting them in. And when is enough going to be enough where we say we're 8 weeks in, we've had enough games for these guys to mess and gel, and they're just not putting it together?
So I almost wouldn't be surprised if we see another formation shift because this season we've seen, it's more of a 4-2-3-1 to become accustomed to. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we start playing more of a traditional 4-4-2 where in possession it turns into like a 3-5-2 with Ekitike and Isak up top because Ekitike, he's got a flair and a style to him that kind of reminds me of Bobby Firmino with some of the things he attempts. And Isak, we know from Liverpool, and he passes the eye test running out the last couple of weeks. I meant to say we know from Newcastle. He's going to deliver. But you get the two of them up top developing a chemistry together, that just creates a whole nother option for us. And we've seen it late in games where we're throwing players forward to get those wins. The two of them up top trying to knock the balls down to each other or the other on-running players. It does seem effective. That's how they've gotten some of these late wins. So I almost wonder if there's a way we could integrate that into a full game instead of a last-ditch effort.
But then what are we doing for rotation purposes?
You don't have to do it every game, but you can identify the ones where, especially against some of the teams that have smaller center backs or give up a lot of set piece goals, get the two big bodies in there. Get crosses in. The players should be bombing down the sidelines, putting crosses in. I feel like sometimes we're a little too technical. Everyone wants to dribble into the penalty spot to get their shot. You hit the top of the 18, you got to be looking up to shoot, or at least lay someone off to hit one.
And I feel like with Florian, he's putting too much pressure on himself. He's pressing too much. He's either looking for the perfect pass, right, or the perfect shot opportunity. But between him and Frimpong, I love the dude. They just turn the ball over way too much in volume.
They do, but I think part of that is because they're trying those creative things that we've said we've been lacking for a little while. Everyone's been saying we need a creator, and we've been relying on Trent to do it or Salah just to keep putting up insane numbers, beating 4 or 5 defenders at a time. Verts is supposed to be that creator, and I think again with that kind of style shift to having a central playmaker, I don't think we quite know our best midfield with.
We don't.
Because I do think it is Gravenberch. I think you do need Zoboslai's industry in there, but I would almost rather McAllister instead of Verts at this point. I know he's still coming back and they've been easing him back into the squad, but he's a little more controlled, a little less risky, but he also delivers in the moment. Whereas Verts has kind of scuffed his lines a little too often, and I think it's in his head because he's sitting there going, "Man, they paid all this money for me, and I'm not getting it done." He's starting to doubt himself. He just needs that first one to hit the back of the net, whether he's the one delivering the ball in or the one getting the goal. He just needs that first one, and then I'm sure the floodgates will open. The talent is too good.
Right, and I know you saw the comments from Jamie Carragher. Slott's got to pull him. Put him on super sub.
Yeah, he did. give him 20 minutes, 30 minutes when
Yep.
it's not working and you need a creator to come in there. But right now, it's not it. I think McAllister is healthy enough that he can get there. Zoboslai should definitely be involved because I think he's that box-to-box presence that you need. Gravenberch is great at being the pendulum and letting everything dictate through him. He's got arguably the best half turn in the world. Um, but you need that guy who can pick the ball up and run 20, 30 yards. Just take the green grass and put the pressure on, because when you do that, now the back four someone's got to challenge you, which is going to leave a gap for someone else to run into. Because if Dom's running in from the midfield, he's one of the two at the base of it. If he's running in, should have four players ahead of him. If one of their four have to come and attack him, that leaves someone open. You get your head up and make the passes, you create those odd man opportunities, and the goals should flow. The problem is when it comes time to make those passes, more often than not, it's a turnover. It's a pass behind a player that kills the momentum. It's a pass out of bounds because you're not on the same page. We've seen it a little too often so far this year, and again, we're being hypercritical of the team that's in first place in the league. So that just shows how high the standard is.
Well, and it's also our team. Let's be fair. But
that is true.
yeah, but like I look at it like this. I put Gapco out there, Gravenberch, Virgil, Kanate, Ekatike, Isak, all in my starting lineup. We win a corner. How many other clubs in the Prem can line up against those Redwoods on a corner?
Maybe Newcastle and Arsenal.
Right.
I'm saying maybe because I think we have one or two more over 6'3" than they do.
Right. And it's just like that to me is like we win a lot of corners and we don't do anything. We don't capitalize on the corners. I sit at MJ's with Lee every week for whatever game it is, and he's bitching and complaining about how we do nothing with corners. Outside of that Verge corner a couple of weeks ago where he banged it in to win the game, we really haven't done anything. And we've got these guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". And
Kanate should have put that one away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that he should have put that away, and you could see by his reaction he knew, and it was not far off. But I almost want to see a little more creativity because, to your point, yeah, we got the size, we got 4 or 5 players over 6'4", 6'5". Hitting the ball in there should be an option, but sometimes change the angle. Have instead of having Zoboslai take the kick, have him 10 yards back, a little infield. Play to him and change the angle. And again, when you do that, because their line is going to try to come out, because now you've played the ball backwards and they want to press everyone up. If the Liverpool attackers are smart and they stay onside, and then you spin that ball into the penalty box or in between, the penalty spot and the 6. Now one of those big guys, all you need is a deflection. You don't need to be super accurate with it because the pace is going to come from the delivery.
Oh, 100%. I'm saying like those guys can be decoys, and just pull in the double, the triple team, suck everybody in towards that goal line. And to your point, change the angle, play it out towards the 18, have somebody take a hit and then a ricochet. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And I will say, and this is not in defense of anything that's happened to Liverpool or any club in general, but goalkeepers are the most overprotected people on the planet. You're the only player on the field who's allowed to use your hands, which extends your reach from, most of these guys are 6 foot plus.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have 8 foot reach plus a jump. Yet if I blink in your direction and you don't get the ball, it's an instant penalty kick the other way. That needs to change because goalkeepers get away with absolute murder. You want to talk about soccer players flopping? I point to goalkeepers just as much as I do attackers.
So before we shift gears, I haven't seen anything on how long Allison's going to be out.
I saw 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring injury.
Oh my god! Ugh. Because he kept us in both those games against Dallas on Saturday and against Galata on Tuesday. So let me get this before we roll over to some other topics. What's your feel right now with our squad? Like, you positive, you negative, you neutral?
Um, I would rate my feelings about a 7 out of 10, so definitely towards the positive side. I think there is easy potential if they start clicking in the next couple weeks. This could be a 10 out of 10 squad just with the talent there. I just think it's a lot of change. They've gotten lucky to get the breathing room that they've had. I think they need to acknowledge their luck, put the nose to the grindstone, and now get the work done. Because, a 5 point lead a couple of years ago, if Man City had a 5 point lead, if Liverpool had a 5 point lead under Klopp, it was season over.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that way right now, which is why I'm a little hesitant to be more positive. And we saw how quickly it can change last weekend. One bad weekend, 2 points.
Well, so, last week when we were supposed to do this show, my talking point was how everything fell Liverpool's way on that weekend because everything broke right for us. We picked up 3, everybody else dropped points.
And this weekend was the exact opposite.
Right, but to your point, Arsenal, they reloaded just as good as we did.
Yes.
And they've got a ton of depth, and they're going to be there all season long. Man City, honestly, I don't think they will be. But I think we're going to have this title race up until match day 38 with Arsenal because they have just as much depth as we do. And what you and I probably think the biggest fault of our club is the back line. That's Arsenal's strength. They get the best back line in the league.
Them and Crystal Palace. Yeah. I think the biggest risk for Arsenal that would derail them would be injuries. They do have the depth to overcome it, but there are some players there that they can't be without. If the 2 center backs go down, that defense crumbles. We saw that a little bit last year.
Well, can't you say that about us? If Verge or Kanate go down?
I trust Joe Gomez to slide in, but I'm definitely a little more concerned now that Leone is going to be out for the season with the ACL injury because Gomez is known to have his own injury issues.
Right.
And I'm already hearing that apparently Liverpool is not going to be going in for Gay in January. They're going to wait for the summer and get him on a free.
That was my next question to you.
I almost wonder if they're going to have their hand forced and have to go in and pay, 15, 20 million for a player who could be free in 6 months. Just because they have an injury crisis. It's very possible.
Listen, if either Verge or Kanate go down, we're going to go in, and we're going to go in for more than 25, 30 mil. We're going to have to.
I think that's the problem because there's other clubs lurking. Real Madrid's lurking, Man City's lurking. If they make offers, we're going to have to match that. So a little bit of a bidding war. But the rumor is he wants to be at Anfield. So unless they make some earth-shattering offer, which both those teams have the ability to do, I do believe he will be at Anfield next season. But a lot of things can change in 6-7 months.
Yeah. I'll be curious. So now that we move off that, the San Siro Stadium, it's like Fenway. It's like Wrigley. It's 100 years old. For people that don't know what we're talking about, it's a stadium that AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Italy play at. It's a cathedral for footy.
It's essentially the Colosseum of Italian football. I mean, I looked it up before we got on. They hosted World Cup matches in 1934, just to give you an idea of how old the stadium is, and 1990, 4 European Cup finals in 65, 70, 2001, 2016. Like the amount of legendary matches that have been played at this. Oh, those are just finals and opening matches. We have not talked about Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Italy and what they've done in that stadium. The amount of just history in that stadium is incredible, but I do feel, and we've seen this with a lot of teams, that they look at these aging stadiums and go, okay, we can invest in them. We can triple or quadruple the number of executive suites we have that we can charge an arm and a leg for. And I think it is a little bit of the corporatization of soccer and of football that we're seeing, where real estate value and real estate deals and executive suites are overpowering, um, history and fanfare and things like that. But regardless of where you put AC Milan, Inter fans, Italian fans, they show up every time. So as long as the new stadium isn't a disaster, and I can't imagine it would be with two legendary clubs like this, um, it should be quite the spectacle, and it could give a lot of power back to Italian football.
Well, what I read too is that they're co-hosting the 2032 Euros, and the San Siro doesn't even meet the qualifications for FIFA to host a Euro game.
Not, which is
That's
a big
how we,
part of why the city.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, how are you going to host Euros and not be able to play a game in that stadium? So, some of the research and the stuff I read is you've got these opponents now saying that this is just a real estate deal. They just want to redevelop, build up everything around it. But they still need a stadium to play in, and it's still about the numbers. And you look in my background with Anfield, look what Fenway has done with this and how many seats they've added. You can take something from nothing and build it into something. Like, I'm not concerned about it. Yeah, the history you're gonna lose, but if it's so outdated and you can't build and construct upon it, what other choice do you have to do?
And I think that's where they run into the issue of the cost to update it, because again, it's a 99, about to be 100-year-old stadium. Um, the cost to update some of those areas, it probably does make more sense to build the new one. And the romantics of us are going to feel for losing an icon of the sport. But again, I think the opportunities that it's now going to bring to Italy, it's an additional updated stadium. They'll be able to host more, European nights, things like that. I can't imagine that they would open up a new San Siro or whatever the stadium's going to be called, and they wouldn't be on top of the short list to host the Champions League final or Europa final or something like that, which is definitely what the investors are going to want. So it makes sense in that aspect. I think it's a good move for both clubs. Just the romantic in me hates to see it go.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I wish I could, maybe you've seen it, I haven't, is there a dollar amount tied to what they purchased it for?
I did see it. I don't have it written down,
Okay.
but it wasn't a small number, but it was significantly less than I thought it would be to purchase a stadium.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw something around like 100 million, but that might have been part of the overall. So don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a homer to it because I'm a Boston guy, born and raised. I could never imagine Major League Baseball
Without Fenway.
without Fenway.
Yeah.
Without Fenway. It's just, or without Wrigley Field. They're just two classic, iconic. But Fenway Sports Group, just like what they've done with Anfield, they've done the same thing with Fenway. They've gotten creative. And it just sounds to me like with the San Siro, they have the opportunity, the space, the real estate to rebuild this thing and blow it out and make it that much bigger and better. And to your point, host Champion League finals, Europa League finals, host a freaking European Championship game. Because how do you have a Euro in Italy and not have a game
In Milan.
in Milan? Like, that's just
With that, and they'll be able to add shops, hotels, restaurants, things like that in the surrounding area. Um, almost like what, being from Boston, you would know what Gillette's like, and Patriots Place. It's more than just the stadium. That's what they're going to look for, because that way you get revenue coming in from outside of football that allows you to invest into football, and ideally grow your team from there and recoup your investment.
And quite frankly, in today's world, with what athletes are being paid and what they're making, you need to monopolize every revenue stream that you can.
Absolutely.
Because
Every stadium tour, every executive package, all of that is money towards wages and players and staff and
transfers.
exactly.
I mean, let's not forget Isak and Wirtz. What did Liverpool spend? 200 and
250 between the two of them.
right.
Um, which again, incredible amount, but that's part of the updated stadium. People forget that they also sold $350 million worth of players. But you get more people on the stadiums, you get more big names. That's shirt revenue. You get sponsored. The sponsorship revenue has increased for LFC, and we've seen it for other clubs too, where hey, you get a new sponsorship, you get new owners, you get new income streams, you get to go spend more.
Yeah. So, second day match, Champions League this week. What game stood out to you? I know you said you picked a couple.
I picked. I mean, the Liverpool struggle was an obvious one, but we've already kind of touched on that. The other two I wanted to just mention was the rematch, PSG and Barcelona. And I don't know if you saw the exchange between Lamine Yamal and Hakimi,
Mm-hmm.
but Lamal saying, the mission's the same, here we go. And Hakimi kind of gave him the zipper mouth, the shut it, after talking up, his defense. And PSG kept him out of it. I mean, he had one absolutely beautiful run towards the beginning where he Maradona'd right between two players, beat another player. But after that, he was kind of quiet. Again, the referee, I'm just going to say I didn't agree with a lot of the decisions and definitely impacted the match. Good old Michael Oliver for you, but is what it is there. But I think it does show that, PSG, I think that's the first statement game of the Champions League so far. They basically said, okay, we know you're one of our top competitions. We beat you. It's our title to defend. Here we are. Who's going to step up? But then you look at some of the blowout games and, Real Madrid with a 5-goal victory. I think Bayern Munich also had a big win.
Byron was huge. Yeah.
The
Atletico was
Atletico,
huge.
I was going to say, which also, that says something about the, the big teams showing up, even though it is that league format. And we saw last year with PSG, they snuck in kind of late. You don't have to be top of the standings in the league format to progress, which I want to say Arne Slot kind of considered, and that's why he did his chop change experimental stuff since we got that first win. Again, that's me giving him, an easy way out. I don't think that is fully what it was, but I think that's something we need to all consider with that new format. We're all still getting used to it, but whether you get in at number 1 or number 16, you got a shot. You just want to get into that knockout phase.
Yeah, and I think to what you just said, Liverpool finished first after the group play last year.
And they got PSG right out the rip.
Right. So it's like navigate your way through. Would it be great to finish top 8 and get a bye? Yeah. But ultimately, just finish in that top 24 and you play on. You might have to play a couple of extra games. So it's to me, it's like it's a chess game now. And like, how seriously can we take it? How much can you buy in every Champions League match day now? Because I think you're going to have a lot of these big players that just ho hum it because they know they're going to get top 24. There's a team in here I've never heard of before. Qarabag? Karabag. I'm sorry, Karabag. Have you ever
Is that
heard
the
of
team from like Azerbaijan or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what do you imagine?
I love when you get crazy storylines like that. And this league format gives us more opportunity for that. Because, again, if the big names think that they can just ease in at the top 24, for me, top 8, anywhere 1 to 8, I don't care. But top 8 is the goal.
Yeah.
Because you want that bye. Because if you can skip around in knockouts, anything can happen in knockouts. Just take the easy pass. But if you get to, if we're in a little bit of an injury crisis and we've got the top 18 secured, rotate people. You're already in. Just, again, I think to your point, it's more of a chess match. It's more about managing as opposed to, I got home and away, 6 games. I have to hit at least 8 points, is I think historically what we've said. If you can get 8 points from 6 games, you can get out of your group. Now it's a totally different animal. All that logic goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of these teams right now that I've never, ever, I mean, outside of our boys from Bodo, Clint, which
Bodo,
you and I love, but
And I think they drew Tottenham, actually.
yeah, they did.
I think they
Caramount,
drew again.
Carrot Almighty is a team. Never heard of them. FK Carabag that we just talked about. Never heard of them. Union St. Galoy. Never heard.
Some of these teams I've randomly heard about when, someone would be in the Europa League and have this insane journey to go to one of these teams. But it is one of the nice things about the expanded format is these teams get some notoriety at the highest level. But it's also one of those things where I almost look at every one of these little teams as another banana peel potential for the big guys because care about how many times are they going to get a chance to play a team like, if they got a chance to play a Real Madrid, every single one of them are going to show up like it's the biggest day of their life because for them it is. Real Madrid sits there and goes, okay, it's another game. Those are the banana peel games. And I think we get more of them and we're going to see more of them because of the league style.
Yeah, it's crazy. So going back to Turkey on Tuesday, I kind of just chalk it up as what it is what it is. Maybe experimental, rolling out some things, squad rotation. Slot's got some confidence of, well, we're making the top 24. If we don't make the top 8, oh well, we're trying to win 4 different cups. I get it. I still don't like it. And it's not like we didn't have our chances on Tuesday. We had plenty of opportunities.
Well, and that's where I think the problem is. It's okay, you can chop and change and do all that. You're the manager. But when it feels like it's not passing the eye test and the passing is sloppy and there's turnovers and there's missed opportunities or just lack thereof for portions of the match, you kind of sit there and go, what are you doing? And that's not a great feeling, especially coming off the Crystal Palace loss. And we got a big game this weekend.
Oh,
It's not exactly like you can, take your foot off the gas. But one other Champions League game I wanted to touch on real quick. Monaco Man City, the 2-2 draw.
draw, yeah.
Monaco is the island of misfit toys, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun. There are some names that didn't quite hit the peaks that we wanted them to at other clubs, but Monaco's kind of said, okay, we'll give you your chance, and I think they showed they can play. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They could be one of those disruptors, because I think I would expect them to make the top 24, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make a bit of a run come the knockouts.
When we do a knockout round preview show with you and Henry, maybe we'll get some of these other knuckleheads on that we love to talk footy with. I could see them dancing their way to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, especially depending on what the matchups end up like in the brackets, because that's the other thing where, because some of the big teams don't go for, it's not Liverpool, Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're scattered throughout that top 24. One of these, the arms of the bracket could just be open there for a team like Monaco to walk through.
Yeah, and I would say this, coming out of the gate, the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of these domestic seasons, I think this is a year of turmoil for Real.
I think I've heard rumors of unrest in the dressing room because of the Mbappe Vinny Jr., who gets to be the main man. Yeah, Real Madrid is just kind of They don't have that regalness to them that they've always exuded.
Yeah, and they just don't. They're not popping to me like. All right, I know that they're going to either make the semifinals of the CL or they're going to make the final of the CL. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
every year I go into the Champions League, and that's what I expect. And right now, it's just like, like all right, an Mbappe penalty here, there. You know, they got blown out against their crosstown rivals in the Derby. Like I
But
don't know.
that's the thing about Real Madrid. When they have the bad seasons, those seem to be the years that they just turn it on for the Champions League.
Yeah, but I don't get that. I don't get that vibe. Like I just think that this is going to be a year where they are going to so underperform. It's going to blow everybody's mind.
I can see it. I think we got to give Xavi Alonso time because I think he proved he can coach.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think
I
I don't
don't. I
think
don't
anyone's
think it's
questioning
him.
that. But it's definitely a adjusting to the players that are here versus with Real Madrid, they players figure it out as opposed to here's my system, this is what I need. And I think that's where some of the turmoil that you might be talking about is. And Xabi Alonso is a legend at Real Madrid, so he has the ability, similar to Zidane when he was there. He can go against the board and the president and say, nope.
Yeah, I don't think it. I don't think it's Xavi. I I think it's certain players in the locker room and what they want,
And
their egos, whatever they want.
that's why I think the Vinny and Mbappe thing, especially after the Ballon d'Or results and they saw where they ranked, I think their egos got deflated a good bit, and that's going to continue to cause issues.
Yeah.
Or
All
it
right.
could ignite a fire under them, and we're all screwed.
It could, but I don't get that feel this year.
Yeah, that vibe
Yeah.
isn't there. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree.
So it's early, but it's never too early to be coaches, gaffers on the hot seat.
We've already seen chops.
Yep. We've seen Potter at West Ham, right? We've seen Nuno at Forest. I read a rumor on Monday that if Chelsea did not win midweek during Champions League, out.
I heard that same rumor, which to me is a little ridiculous. Now,
Stupid.
I don't know if you heard the same one I did, but I heard it was because of the accumulation of red cards that he was under threat, that he was lacking the ability to instill discipline into the players. Which, I'm sorry, bonehead mistakes by individual players and bad challenges are not on the manager. So I kind of disregarded that one, but I'm not gonna lie, I did double check the Chelsea result just to see.
Yeah, but I mean, they just won the Club World Cup.
Exactly. Like
He did
it's
a
no way.
phenomenal job last year juggling that massive roster. And if I went back to that podcast when we did our premiere preview, I'm pretty sure that both you and I had Chelsea finishing number 2 in the Prem.
Hmm.
I know I had them number 2.
I had them. I definitely had them in my top four at least.
Yeah.
Based on just the talent that they have there. I believe in the manager. I like his style, and it's proven to work. So I don't think he's under any pressure. I think the run of red cards that they saw was something that people were able to grab onto as there's issues, he's going to go. But again, I didn't give it much credit other than I did double check the score.
Yeah. So I talked to Henry a couple of weeks ago on the show. He's steadfast with Man U, and they're not going to make a change. I think it's inevitable.
So that's actually a note I had when I saw we were going to talk about manager hot seat. Is I think the only reason Ruben is in the job is because Manchester United is working so hard to cut their books down as much as possible and to let him go and pay out his severance package plus bring in a new manager. Probably looking at $30 to $50 million between the two. is not cheap and not something they want to do. And that's the only reason he's still there because I'm sorry, his system does not work with those players. And he refuses to change his system. He's iced out a handful of players. It's it feels toxic, but it's one of those things where I think it's the fish stinks from the head down. I think it's bigger than the manager. It's the overall atmosphere of the club. I think it's the toxicity of the fans being entitled because they had Sir Alex for all those years and won so much. Credit to them, but that's not realistic to think that's going to last forever. And now they're coming to terms with it, and you just there's so much hostility and anger inside Old Trafford. Whether it's oh, the roof is leaking, the pitch isn't good, the players are underperforming, the manager looks like a depressed guy whose girlfriend didn't call him back, whatever it may be. Everything just feels negative there. But I think because of the way they're going about managing the books, cutting all this staff, furloughing other staff, they're not going to make the change because it's going to be too much of an impact to payroll.
So, in my mind, this is where I am. Is I think he wants out, but he doesn't want to quit because he wants to get paid out for the contract.
Mm-hmm.
The upper echelon doesn't want to pay him out, so they would like to see him sit there and suffer. And at the end of the day, how does that benefit the players on the pitch and the club overall?
The decisions aren't being made for the club overall. They're being made for the spreadsheets in front of the accountant. And that's not a way to run a club. Now, I'm not saying you can free spend, but if you're doing everything based on numbers, you're not going to have a successful club.
But why do they continually spend every transfer window? They just keep throwing money up against the wall and see what sticks.
Well,
go on so many times, right?
Think about this. How many managers have they had since Sir Alex?
I think we're up to 14.
Between interim and full-time managers. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
What do we have? David Moyes, Van Hall, Ten Hag,
Marino.
Mourinho was there. Ollie was there. Now we got Ruben. I'm probably missing a couple.
We're double. I can tell you, we're double digits since
If
Sir
you
Alex.
include the interims, absolutely. So, Sir Alex was a while ago, but he wasn't 20, 30 years ago. So none of these managers have had a chance to bring in players and stamp an identity because there's been so much chop and change. You had players that were brought in by 2-3 managers ago that now Ruben's got to force into his system because they're on absurd salaries. Also, I think the biggest telltale is look at the players who have left Manchester United and have shined for other teams. It tells you it's more about the environment at Manchester United than it is about the tactics or the players or the willpower, which I don't like Bruno Fernandes much as a player. I think he whines way too much, but his talent's undeniable, and he does pull that team out of the mud time and time again. If it wasn't for him, they would have been relegated.
Yeah. They can't afford to let him go right now. So I just looked it up. They've had 7 full-time managers since 2013 when Sir Alex left. So
that's
within 12 years.
Mm-hmm. That's a manager every other year.
Yep.
How can you expect to have any type of consistency at the top level?
I love it as a Liverpool fan. Don't get me wrong.
See, I love it in the same way I loved seeing Everton suffer, but I do believe the league overall suffers if an Everton, an Arsenal, a Chelsea, a Man U drop out of the Premier League. As a Liverpool fan, I'd love to see a rival not be there because it's one less person I have to worry about. But for the league overall, I mean, it was like, think about, and this is a long time ago for some of our viewers, but Leeds used to be European royalty.
Oh,
and they were out of the league for so long.
And they were gone forever.
Sunderland, they dropped down to League One and had to fight their way back up. Some of these teams that were absolute staples. So it's not impossible for a big team to go down. Newcastle yo-yoed for a while. Man City wasn't this EPL powerhouse forever. That's, you know, 20 years ago, they were kind of mid-table and fighting relegation. And then the money came in, the investment came in, and you can see what happens to a club with that. But to your point, the way the money is being spent at Manchester United doesn't look like investment. It looks like a drunk kid with his dad's credit card. Just, oh, this looks fun. Buy a Ferrari. Oh, this looks fun. Buy a Maserati. Oh, wait, I don't know how to drive stick, so I can't do anything.
Right. That's a great
That's
analogy.
Manchester United.
Yeah. Speaking of, I also heard and read rumors that Pep's gone at the end of the year.
So I think that partially comes on last year's performance and this year them not getting off to, a rip-roaring start the way we thought they would. He's also been there. He's the longest tenured manager in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Been there a long time. I think longer than he was at Barcelona or Bayern.
I think combined he's at Man City long, and I just feel like,
and he has spoken about doing similar to what Klopp originally said, where he's going to step away from football for a little while. Now I don't know if that means Pep's about to join the Red Bull hierarchy as well, but he has spoken about taking a break. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's going out on bad terms. I think he's a little burnt out. I do think his rivalry with Klopp burnt him out a little bit, and then to have to try to, to have Slot just come in there and give you a brand new rival that's going to give you problems. I feel like mentally and personally, he's had his things where he just needs a break.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about the Prem, where there's 5 to 6 teams every year you got a battle, where when he was at Barcelona, it was Real. Sometimes
Maybe Atletico. Maybe Valencia.
Right. When he went to Germany in the Bundesliga, it was
Dortmund, but you buy all their best players.
Right. So it wasn't that much of a challenge. And I just think that it's no matter what he does, there's another team in the Prem that's just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up to compete with the guy. And I don't know if he wants to take that competition on anymore.
Well, I think it's a little bit of when you're the king of the mountain, everyone wants their shot at you. And it would be hard to disqualify him as the best manager in the world over the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So, when Sunderland shows up, when any of these teams show up, they want to take it to a Pep Guardiola team. They want to impose themselves and show that they can play against that caliber, because that elevates them. And when you have a team showing up for you 60 games a year, and you have to mentally prepare to be at the highest level for 60 games a year for 8, 9, 10 years now, it's going to wear on you.
Yeah, and you got to worry about international breaks. You got to worry about all these other different cup competitions. It's not just what you're doing in the Prem.
Internal financial, staffing, your coaching room, your analytics room, your physios. I mean, you are involved in so many different things. We all just think you go out there, do a couple training sessions during the week, and then, okay, boys, here's what we're doing on Sunday. Have at it. We see him yell on the touchline. No, it's, you're in there at 7 a.m. You're leaving at 9 p.m., going to all these meetings, having your training sessions, analyzing film, talking with your staff. It's, I would love that life, but I don't know if I'd be able to do it as long as he did, because, again, you burn out.
Klopp came out the other day and said in the past 25 years he's been to 2 weddings because he just doesn't have the time because of how committed he is to his club.
Yep, you got a game on Saturday or Sunday. You have a midweek game. You have 2 days to prepare for each of them. Occasionally you get a week off. You let your players go on holiday, but that's when you have to do your analytics and everything. You give up a lot of personal life to be at this level, whether player, coach, staff. I think people forget about that when when a player does have a hard time, like Florian Wirtz. New country, big contract, you're not playing 100% well, you're still human. You're going to feel a type of way. So I think people do need to keep that in mind, especially when they criticize, and that's why I try not to be too harsh with my words. But
Yeah.
he does look 100% off the pace.
So we're gonna get out of here. I'm just looking real quick, and I'm gonna surprise you with this. Throw me a Prem League prediction for the weekend outside of Liverpool.
Outside of Liverpool, let me pull these games up real quick, 'cause I know there's a couple good ones in play.
And then, of course, I'm gonna get your Liverpool prediction.
Okay, I think London Derby, Arsenal West Ham is going to be. That's always just a good atmosphere, but I think Arsenal will blow them away. West Ham have looked off the pace; they've had their issues. I am somewhat interested in Everton Crystal Palace on Sunday. Again, just the way Crystal Palace is going, but one of my favorite players, and I think the signing of the season so far with what he's invigorated to the club is Jack Grealish at
Yeah.
Everton. So I'm very interested to see what he does against that Crystal Palace back line. That could be a really fun one to watch. And then as far as Liverpool and Chelsea, my heart says that they get it done. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I could see this being like a 4-3 either way, or just the
Ooh.
ugliest 1-0 you've ever seen. I don't see much of an in between.
Wow, you're going over. The most interested game I'm into is Newcastle Forest.
Forest.
Just because I picked Forest to finish in the top 4 for the year, and we know the whole blow up with the gaffer with Nuno, and now we've replaced him with Ange.
I think I had both of them in my top 5, and they have not started the season looking like that.
No, and for Liverpool, Christ. I don't know. Do we come out with the engines burning and on fire because we've lost 2? And maybe, like to your point, we switch it up and go to a 4-4-2 and just run out a Katike and Isak?
That's what I think happens, and that's where because I have a feeling
That's where you're thinking the 4-3 score.
that's where my 4-3 comes from, because I don't trust
Yeah.
our defense still, but I think we go out there and just try to blow them away. Like I could see Liverpool getting out to like a 3-0 lead, and then going back to 3-2, and then one of those games where you have to go and like sit in a dark room to make yourself feel better because too much emotion. But I could also see just an absolute scrap where it's an ugly goal on a set piece or something for a 1-0 win either way. I don't think we're seeing like a 2-2, 2-3 or anything like that. It's either lots of goals or no goals.
I'm going to go 4-2 Reds.
I like the way you think, but I noticed that pause there.
and this is where I'm going. Mo with 1, Isak 2, and Gapco 1.
I would love that. Just the front line, just all getting in. If I could ask for any wish, it would be for Florian Wirtz to come in as a super sub in like the 70th minute and get an assist or a goal. That would be the perfect thing for me, but I do not want to see him in the starting lineup. I think he needs to build his confidence, and I think through the sub bench is the way to do it.
Yeah. All right, Johnny, hold on for a minute. I want to see you on the other side. For everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday. Take care, all.
Thank you.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm,